We're joined by a great friend of the broadcast, great friend of the American Center for Law and Justice, Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, who fights for all of us in Tennessee, but really the whole country and conservative values. And Senator Blackburn, I want to thank you for joining us today on Sekulow. I want to go right to the energy crisis in our country. You actually have said, and I tend to totally agree with you, that President Biden and his administration took these energy policies to drive up prices, and they did so intentionally.
That is exactly right. This is implementing the Green New Deal through executive fiat and executive orders because they knew they could not get it through Congress. So this is how they're trying to achieve their end, and of course they justify what they're doing because they've wanted $5 a gallon gas for quite a period of time now. They feel like people will drive less. People will begin to seek out alternatives. They will go for hybrid cars. They will go for electric cars. But see, the left never stops to realize that there's a whole lot of us that can't afford an electric car, that don't have $60,000 we want to go spend on a vehicle, and that we're depending on having those automobiles
Senator,
that are going to use regular gas.
Right. Senator, this is Jay. I wanted to ask you this because I agree with you also. I agree with what you and Jordan have been talking about, that I think this was an intentional move on the Biden administration. But the follow-up to that has to be, it's now gotten out of control because we're hearing from your constituents and people all over the country. If we open our phone lines and say, let's talk about energy costs, we could literally sit in our studio for a day answering questions. So what the American people and what your constituents and our members around the country are worried about is, what can we now do to deal with this? Because we were energy exporters, we were energy independent just 24 months ago. So what can you do as a senator to help alleviate what is becoming a dire situation for families?
Yeah, and Jay, that's the question that comes up in every one of our meetings that we have. What can you do about it today? And here is what could be done about it today. First of all, we need the American people to be pressuring this White House because they're completely out of step with where the American people are on this. And as you said, we've gotten to a crisis situation when the price of a gallon of gas nationally is $5. The average is $5. So what they could do today, if they wanted to, is reverse some of these executive orders that they have put in place on the energy sector, like the Keystone Pipeline, like taking Alaska offline, like taking offshore drilling offline, like ending fracking. And they could also begin to lift some of the regulations. You know, Joe Biden has put in place 69 regulations since he went into office. The majority of those are centered on the energy sector. So halt the regulations that you have put in place, and then it would give us time through the Congressional Review Act to pull these forward for review by Congress, for Congress to have an up or down vote on this. And those are things that can be put in place today. And indeed, Congressional Review Acts, or CRAs as they're called, that is something that we are working on right now. That would help with the price at the pump. And then when it comes to inflation in general, which is really rocking everybody's world right now, what you need to do is, first of all, stop the out-of-control government spending. And by voting no on all of these spending bills, we are keeping them from spending more money. That's important to do. The American people need to support us in those efforts.
I appreciate you saying that, Senator, because I don't want the American people, Jordan, to lose hope here. And Senator Blackburn is really laying out common sense initiatives that could affect pricing immediately.
Yeah, and we do see that this pressure has gotten to the White House, Senator Blackburn, because ultimately President Biden, though, it's like they didn't want to do the trip. They've canceled it once. They've now resettled it. He is heading to the Middle East. He's heading to Saudi Arabia to, in a sense, kiss the ring because of what he said on the campaign trail about Saudi Arabia. But while it's not doing what I think it should be doing in America to unleash American energy, it does seem like there is pressure and there is some hope, and I think Americans are looking for that even before election cycles and before we get to November, that we can put that pressure, and that the administration, they may try to couch it, they may try to deny that they're going to Saudi Arabia for energy issues, but we all know that they are.
They are indeed, because they've stopped production here. Now, Jordan, here is something with the Keystone Pipeline. If he restarted it today, and by the way, it would have been finished by late of 2022, this year, had he not stopped it. But the Keystone Pipeline, getting that in place is 830,000 barrels of oil per day. Right now, we are importing just under 700,000 barrels of oil per day. Get these drill permits out to wildcatters, independents, big oil companies that have leases but cannot drill on those leases because the Biden administration is not giving them the drill permits.
Well, if I was advising one of these oil companies as an attorney, and I'm an attorney, but if I was advising one of them, I would say, probably don't go down this path with this administration. Not that you wouldn't want to for jobs, and if you really believe, because who would trust an administration who's got a president that said this on the campaign trail? There will, quote, be no ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period, in America, and irreversible path towards doing away with fossil fuels. So it would be hard to advise the board of directors for a smaller company, bigger company, to say, yeah, put the resources in, even if you got the permit, because the red tape you got to go through, by the time you go through it, they'll end up going back to this policy. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, that is why it is important for Congress to provide certainty and stability and to end this back and forth. Like I said, they can't get the Green New Deal through Congress, so they've decided to do it by executive fiat.
All right, Senator, this is something that I deal with. I've been dealing with the Supreme Court for 40 years, and I was horrified both with the leak of the opinion in Dobbs, which was unprecedented, and then what is literally an assassination attempt on Brett Kavanaugh. I know you've been working closely with legislation to get real protection for the Supreme Court justices who are now basically under attack. What's the status of things right now, and how serious of a threat do you see this to our democracy?
It is quite a serious threat. And the fact that you had a bill that would do plussed up protection for the Supreme Court, and it went through the Senate on a unanimous vote, and went over nearly a month ago to the House, and Nancy Pelosi is still sitting on it and does not think that the justices are facing any kind of threat. This is absolutely appalling. And it is imperative that they be given protection. And, Merrick Garland ought to go out here. It's a violation of federal law, 18 U.S.C. 1507. And he should say, you cannot go and protest right at their property edge, banging your drums, ringing your bells, tooting your horns, disrupting the peace in the community where these justices live. You have to stop doxing them and putting the information online, where they go to church, where their children go to school. This is a threat. It is intimidation. It is against the law. If you want to protest, go to the public square and carry out your protest, but do not do it in front of their house, banging on all of your drums and things at all hours of the day and night.
Well, as you said, there's federal law that prohibits this kind of activity in front of a judge's house for the purposes of intimidating that judge as it respect to an opinion. And Merrick Garland has been crickets, nothing on this, and I think it's outrageous. Senator, we appreciate you being with us, appreciate your fight, and you gave some concrete things that can be done on the energy issue that we're going to continue to reiterate, and it's great working with you, and thanks for being on the broadcast.
You got it. Take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
That's Senator Marsha Blackburn. And folks, again, she's a great friend of ours, but a true supporter, too, of the work we do at the ACLJ. And I think when you talk about the issues on the Judiciary Committee, on the economic issues, and speaking out, and not just for her constituents in Tennessee, which she does a great job of doing, but for so many conservatives on issues like life, too, as well, which we've talked to her about through those judicial nomination process. We'll be talking to her a lot, too, when that decision comes out of the Supreme Court. So again, just one of those relationships that the ACLJ has that is great, and I'm glad she was able to join us today.